To our next topic now, because the Trump administration has announced plans to revoke a key scientific finding that is the legal basis in the US for regulating greenhouse gas emissions and fighting climate change. The endangerment finding, as it's known, was officially issued by the Environmental Protection Agency in 2009, following a Supreme Court ruling during President George W. Bush's time in office.
Now, that ruling established that greenhouse gases are considered air pollutants under the Clean Air Act here in the US. The ruling said that they threaten public health and welfare and that they necessitate regulatory measures to curb emissions from various sources, including from vehicles and power plants. The Obama and Biden administrations used that determination to set strict limits on greenhouse gas emissions from cars, power plants, and from other sources of industrial-level pollution.
The head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Lee Zeldin, now says that endangerment finding will be repealed, calling his decision the largest deregulatory action in the history of America. Environmental groups and states controlled by Democrats are expected to launch swift legal action against the move.
Well, let's hear some of what the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin had to say earlier.
We are going to have a public comment period, one that has not taken place on the endangerment finding over the course of the last decade and a half. We want to hear from the American public to finalize a regulation that not only proposes to rescind the endangerment finding, but all greenhouse gas emissions that followed on light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the science behind that endangerment finding, as it's known. Michael Mann is the director of the Penn Center for Science, Sustainability and the Media at the University of Pennsylvania and has received a presidential award for his work on climate change. Michael, explain to us, first of all, the science that led to this ruling coming from the Supreme Court that hasn't been controversial over the last nearly 20 years.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, it was the EPA administrator of George W. Bush, Christine Todd Whitman, who first declared that carbon dioxide is a pollutant that should be regulated under the Clean Air Act. So it wasn't that long ago when Republican administrations that actually supported efforts to maintain clean air and water and a livable climate actually supported the sort of, climate action. But we've seen a dramatic move away from that position, really by the Republican Party over the last 2 decades now. Now, reaching this absurd point at which they are literally trying to deny that human-caused climate change represents a danger when we can all see and feel the danger in the form of these unprecedented extreme weather events that we're living through now. So there's just this dissonance between what we all know is happening, the danger and damage that we're feeling and that we're seeing, and the declaration by this administration, move on, there's nothing to see here.
But Michael, has the science changed in any way in those intervening years?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Absolutely, because we have 2 decades of additional data that confirm that the planet is continuing to warm up as we predicted it would if we continued to add carbon pollution to the atmosphere. So the science, if anything, has gotten a whole lot stronger, but so has the denial of the science. And we're seeing that here in the form of this effort to strike down this very important precedent, a precedent that was actually created by a Republican administration, the precedent to recognize that CO2 is endangering us in the form of the climate damage that it's causing.
And that precedent, Michael, as I said a moment ago, came from a Supreme Court ruling, the highest court in this land. So would you expect that there will be widespread legislative challenges to what the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin is doing?
Yeah, well, it's not my area of expertise, of course, but I can tell you that common sense dictates that this action needs to be challenged because it threatens all of us, right? We have a fundamental right to a livable planet, clean air, clean water, and a livable planet. And that is, it is contained within our Constitution and the constitutions of most states, that people are entitled to sort of live a livable environment. And this is an assault on that livable environment. This is basically a giveaway to polluters, to the fossil fuel interests that funded the campaign, the Republican administration that is currently in place.
Okay, Professor Michael Mann.